Hi everybody. I'm going to be talking today about media and young children. It's going to be exciting and interesting, and I'm going to give you some fabulous resources to be able to make outstanding decisions for our young kids. It's not about no media anymore. That's not realistic. So let's look at how we can manage media best so that kids can get the good. There's some good in it, but avoid the bad and the ugly. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you some great resource so that you can pick the best media and 5 tips for actually managing it in a way that you can get all the benefits. First, let me tell you, media has some outstanding benefits for kids. If they have great media exposure, then not a lot, I'm not saying a lot, but great, like the really excellent resources out there for super apps and movies and things like that, they actually do better on testing when it comes to knowledge and can even do better at reading, depending on what exposure they have to media. So there's some good outcomes, but let me share with you a few of research facts, not to increase your guilt, but just so you are aware. Okay, so they did a study. So the number of minutes per week parents spend in meaningful conversations with children was around 38.5 minutes. So the amount of time that children were watching TV was 1,680 minutes. So thinking of how kids imitate, they learn through watching, they develop values, guess which one's going to have a bigger impact? Second, a study of 3 and 4-year-olds, they were asked if they like TV or their mom better. 22% said TV. When these 3 and 4-year-olds were asked, do they like TV or dad better? 44% like TV better. So this is really a big influencer. Kids who were watching media, if it was the wrong kind of media, were not as smart. In some different studies, media exposure at 6 months old meant less cognitive development, brain development at 14 months. And as media went up at all ages, reading went down. So the skills kids had with reading went down, especially when media was over 3 hours a day. So more exposure to media, less reading ability. Also, as media watching goes up, anxiety and depression also increase. It is a couple different reasons, but one big one is you're displacing something. So if I'm watching TV 3 hours, what am I not doing? So kids are not as smart when they watch media. They weigh more. They're not as active. They're not moving. They're not reading as much, so they're not getting those reading skills. And they're not doing the most important thing when they're watching media, which is the give and take in conversation they have with adults. That's how kids actually learn language. So when I say something to a child, the child hears that information and decodes those words. They decode those words and they get a picture in their mind of what it is that I'm saying. And then they decide what their response is going to be. They formulate that into words, and then they send those words back to the adult. And then the adult listens to those words, thinks about those, and then responds back. So it is that circular give and take in the conversation that increases literacy skills. That's what actually gets kids to have that cognitive development that we want them to have when they're in those young years. So when they're watching media, guess what? Their brain mirrors sleep. They're a passive recipient. Most often when they're watching media, they're sitting. They're watching and their brain mirrors sleep. That's why we can space out when we're watching TV so easily. The problem, and this is the last negative before I give you the tips to get the most out of media, one of the biggest problems is that there's a lot of advertisers out there and they've embedded themselves in TV shows as well as the media that happens in between TV shows and different kinds of media, because they want to develop what they call brand loyalty. So if they can get a child to have brand loyalty, that means a dedication to, like Dora, I love Dora, that actually stays with them throughout their lives. So if before 5, they develop brand loyalty, they got them. So advertisers work really hard to both get parents to want to expose their kids to different characters and things so they can sell them things, but also they want to reach those kids at a young age so that they can develop brand loyalty. So there's a whole bunch of people out there trying to make money off our kids. And if you don't think it's working, let me tell you one last bit of research. 100%, 100% of number 1 rated toys were the most advertised. 100%. There's no way around this. Media impacts kids. It impacts their reading ability, their cognitive skills. It impacts their behavior, and it impacts what they buy and how they're shaped really in those young years. That'll stay with them for life. So it's exciting. We want to be able to do something about it. So what can we do? I'm going to give you 5 tips for managing TV so that you can get the best out of media, not just TV, apps, things like that. So first of all, choose the right shows. Shows are not created equally. The coolest thing is we have this resource. It's called Common Sense Media. So what Common Sense Media does, not only it does have articles and tips and tools for all sorts of things, but the main thing that I love is it rates different programs. So you go on there and you type some things in, and what you'll find is Daniel the Tiger. It's rated really highly for 3 to 5 years old, and it is rated highly because it has a high amount of positive role models. It has a high educational value, and it sends a lot of positive messages, and it's low on some of the negative factors that others are high on. So now let's compare it to SpongeBob SquarePants. SpongeBob has no educational value. It is not designed for education at all. It also has no positive role models. And the worries are it actually has some negative language in it. So if you're going to choose to show them some media, choose Daniel the Tiger, not SpongeBob. And you can type in any movie, any app, any TV program, and it will give you those ratings. And so you can be really have a strong foundation when you share a media with kids. You can be confident that they're getting the media that's going to be positive for them and have a great impact on their future. That's number 1. Choose the right media. It only takes a few minutes to research the shows. So number 2, consider how it engages the child. So you might have, maybe some of you know, there's some shows that actually get kids up and dancing and moving. There's some apps that people, little kids can actually start composing music on these apps. They can work on their vocabulary. Some of these apps have been shown to increase language skills in kids. So these can be great apps. So go to that Common Sense Media, look up what apps would teach, 3 to 5-year-olds or whatever age you're working with, which ones are rated really highly for teaching kids language, and choose those apps instead. Find ones that kids really like and that make a big difference, because the difference between word games and shooting zombies, huge. And you're literally wiring the brain for success or not. So we want our kids to succeed. So that's number 2. Consider how it engages the child. Okay. Number 3. Decide how much is enough for your family. You the boss. You the boss, okay? Whether you're running a childcare or a preschool or whether you're running your home, you're the role model. You're the parent. So you decide, is it 30 minutes a day of a really high quality educational program? Or is it 15 minutes? Or is it 1 hour? How much is it? So in order to be able to say and manage, it's just like food. If you don't want your kids to eat a lot of junk food, don't put it on the counter. If you don't want kids to have a lot of junk TV, don't put it in their room. Kids watch way more TV if it's in their room, just like adults do. A matter of fact, if you can move it away to a different area of the house where it's not generally seen, and then put books all around, kids are more likely to pick up the books and put down the media, because they're not going to go search out the media as much. So that's a little side note. But remember, you're the boss. Decide what you're comfortable with. Set it up so that is built in as a routine. 30 minutes while I'm cooking dinner, I'm too stressed out to involve my kids. I wish I could. It's a really great idea. If you can do it, more power to you. For me, that's when I would love to put on a great program that's going to teach my kids something and give me a break. So you can decide when you use it and how much you use it. You're the parent or you're the provider. Okay. Number 4, really important. Use parent controls. What? Okay, I'm going to give you another link. This is to Common Sense Media, another great resource on there. This is telling you all about parent controls. They actually have, for example, on an iPad, after 20 minutes, there's a little duck that goes, work, 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 and goes to sleep. So you don't have to be the one to shut your kids' media off. You set the timer on some of these parental control apps, and it'll just turn off for you. Isn't that awesome? Parents have reported that kids actually just accept it when the media just turns off. So use those parent controls so that you can set up even things like the YouTube for Kids can have some content that's really iffy on it. So you're going to want to set some of those parental controls to make sure to protect your kids so they're not exposed to something you don't want them exposed to. Now, last but not least, are you guys ready for this? Final one, number 5. Make sure you're spending quality time together. Make sure you're having more conversations. You are the influencer of these young kids. You are setting up the trajectory for how they will live their lives, how they will treat people, if they will have manners, if they will regulate themselves. So spend more time connecting, in conversations, snuggling, reading books, doing activities together, exploring our world, finding magic and gratitude in every day. And then media will just come second place, and it also won't displace you. We don't want to displace us. We want to be the educator of young children, not some advertiser, not some media show that's designed to change my child into a consumer that sits passively taking things in and then goes out and buys what they're advertising, right? So I hope you guys liked today. These top tips are brought to you by Thriving Together. We truly are more together. Thanks you guys for coming out. Go ahead and share this. Share this with your parents, share it with other childcare providers, anybody you know who cares about young children, because we can make a difference, you and I. We can make a difference when it comes to setting kids up to be compassionate, loving, empathetic humans, you and me. Media's not going to do it. We need to do it. So teach, love, hold, support, and make media take a back burner. You take control. You the boss. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care and meet with me next week. More on Naptime Nuggets, lowering your stress, increasing your joy when you're caring for these young kids in just one little nugget a week. Over and out.